We have all of our attendees able to join us before we get started this morning. Welcome to our October demo days. Just give us a few minutes to make sure everyone can get on. Well, we're here in Sacramento and we're going to see 91 degrees again here in October, so not quite over with the summer heat. Well, let's get started then. Good morning, everyone. My name is Cindy Williams. I'm the Vendor Relations Coordinator for the California Peace Officers Association, and I would like to welcome you to our October demo days. My apologies for the bad lighting, but it is a nice bright fall day, so we'll make sure that as the sun moves, I'll move with it, right? I wanted to welcome you to Demo Days. The reason we're bringing these to you virtually is we wanted you to have an opportunity to connect with our vendors, even when we can't see each other face to face. This is our new version of face to face. So we have a full day planned with you with great opportunities to connect with product and service providers. And up first this morning is our partner with University of San Diego. And I'd like to introduce to you Christy Infantine, who will be introducing the panel with University of San Diego. Welcome, Christy. Thanks for joining us today.
Thank you so much, Cindy. Thank you to you and CPOA overall so much for having us. We're so happy to be in partnership with you guys and have the opportunity to share with your community today. Welcome everyone to our information session for the Law Enforcement and Public Safety Leadership Master's Degree Program at the University of San Diego. We refer to it as LEPSL for short. Again, my name is Christy and I'm joined by two members of our LEPSL community today. First, we have Dr. Erik Fritsvold, Professor of Criminology here at USD and the Academic Director and Founding Faculty Member of the LEPSL program. We're also joined today by a recent alumnus, Tony Cox, who graduated from the LEPSL program in May. Tony is a retired special agent with NCIS and has held a variety of positions with the Norfolk Police Department. Dr. Fritsvold and Tony, thank you so much for joining us today.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
Good morning, Chris. Thanks to you and the CPOA for having us.
Awesome. So of course, throughout this webinar, you have the opportunity to jump in that chat, ask some questions, let us know you're here, and we will have some time to go over some of those questions towards the end. But with that, Dr. Fritsvold, I'm going to go ahead and hand it over to you. Tell us a little bit about USD and the program.
Sure. So University of San Diego, as you see on the slide, is a top 100 nationally ranked university. And being an academic by trade, I can firmly say that the value of your degree at whatever level in whatever program is inherently tied to the academic reputation of your university. So it's always important as a potential student in any program to do your due diligence and do your research. So we're really fortunate at the University of San Diego to not only be ranked in the top 100 nationally. I like to say we're not an Ivy League school, but we can see them from where we are. We have a thriving undergraduate campus presence, top 10 engineering programs, highly ranked undergraduate business programs, and a top 75 law school. So it's a brand and a university that's going to serve you well throughout your career trajectory as well as post-retirement. And quite frankly, the academic reputation is one of the reasons I've spent the last 15 years at the university, because it serves me well. It serves me quite well as well.
Wonderful. And Tony, I'd love to hear from you. Talk a little bit about why you enrolled in the program, how you chose USC.
Sure. Well, prior to LEPSL, I enrolled in several different universities in their law enforcement and leadership programs, and I actually completed 6 courses. But to me, all lacked progressive design, and I found them essentially under-rewarding. All seem to push an academic view without also looking at a contemporary and pragmatic approach, which I feel is essential in today's law enforcement positions. Fortunately, toward the end of my career, I found LEPSL through Casey Murphy, who was an exhibitor at the Hispanic American Police Command Officers Association training conference that was in Los Angeles, and I was actually a past president of HAPCOA. I upon looking at the program, I found the curriculum was current on issues which impact 21st century law enforcement leaders. For example, transformational leadership versus transactional, transparency with the community and media, enhanced community engagement, budgeting and finance, and obviously in today's environment where we see there's some restrictions on budgeting and some defunding issues, I found those all very, very pertinent. So fortunately, I signed up for the program and completed it. And also the program was priced very reasonable, which obviously that was a benefit and a good sell to my wife. So it worked out.
Absolutely. Thank you. Let's head over into our student profile, who we typically see in the program.
Sure. So I think one of the distinguishing features of our program is that we serve folks like Special Agent in Charge Tony Cox. We serve 99% sworn law enforcement professionals, although we do have professional staff and leadership capacities in our program as well. But the goal is for us really to run a program by law enforcement for law enforcement. And so disaggregating that a little bit, we like to think of our students in three chunks. Probably the modal biggest chunk are mid-career, fast trajectory students who want to leverage an advanced degree to push them up to the command staff level as quick as possible. We also have a significant chunk of students who are already in command staff positions who realize that a master's degree, especially one that nurtures leadership and practical applied skills, is necessary to compete for the very top of the pyramid, chief and sheriff kind of positions. And our third chunk, and we want to make sure we serve all of these groups equally well, are looking to leverage our degree for what's next. We've had a fair number of our alumni land teaching positions post-retirement at local colleges and universities, help an advanced degree with their transition to the private sector. So again, the modal student is a current law enforcement professional on a fast trajectory, but we like to serve students across those three groups as well.
Great, thank you. And Tony, sometimes people will kind of think, you know, it's too late for them to go back to school, or they're, you know, ready for retirement. And you came a little bit later on, right after your retirement, I believe. Can you talk about what kind of motivated you at that point in your life and career?
Sure. As I'm in my late 50s, I blow the curve on the average student LEPSL age. So I was in law enforcement almost 20 years before seeking any leadership positions. At that time, I found that many of my peer group had already obtained a graduate degree. So because of that, I then started looking at some programs, but couldn't find an ideal fit. So prior to my retirement, I obtained the position of Special Agent in Charge, which is essentially the equivalent of a precinct commander with a local police department. I was still disappointed I hadn't completed a graduate program at that time, quite candidly. And although I possessed strong practical experience, both local and federal, I still felt inferior in some respects. And also it was a pride thing for me that I hadn't completed it. And further, as I have a strong passion for law enforcement, I still hope at some point to maybe obtain a chief of police position at some point down the line. That, coupled with the fact that knowing that 35% of all chiefs of police have graduate degrees, and additionally that when you look at announcements, almost all agencies prefer a graduate degree for their chiefs. I then started looking for a program in earnest and fell upon LEPSL. So that's my story.
Love it. Thank you so much. Okay, so Dr. Fritsvold, walk us through a little bit about what you'll learn. I know one thing that we hear from our students and alumni all the time is how immediately you can apply what you're learning in these courses. So if you could talk us through that a little bit.
Absolutely. So clearly our program is academic at its core and academically rigorous, but as noted, we don't want this to be an abstract, theoretical, research method, statistics kind of master's degree. We want folks to learn something in our program on Monday and get an immediate payoff, bring that back, not only to enhance their skill set, but to have both a trickle up and a trickle down positive impact on their department and their agency, their superiors and their subordinates. I think maybe the best way I can illustrate this is by example, and it's hard to choose my favorite, but in the upcoming class, we have a best practices for community engagement course, clearly very contemporary and topical given the national climate at the moment. And this course not only walks through best practices to engage your community, but the final project is particularly representative of the LEPSL mantra. And I'm sure everyone out there would recognize the former President Obama's 21st Task Force report on law enforcement. And we noticed that the Arlington Police Department was doing something particularly creative with this report, and now many agencies are, which is they take those 6 pillars from that report and they use it as a platform to engage their community. They create maybe a 40-page report that's visually interesting, that outlines to their community, what are they doing about officer safety and wellness? How can the community get involved? How are they being transparent and seeking stakeholder input? So in that class, students create that version of their report for their own agency. So they work on it every week, and at the end of the course, they have a professional packet that outlines how their agency is on the cutting edge of being transparent and in dialogue with their community. And why do I pick this example? Because to date, there are 4 students that we know of that took this project, ran it up their chain of command, and I'm sure they dressed it up a little bit, but it's now the official report from their department to their community. So we don't just want to do abstract academic work in our classes, we want it to have a practical payoff and dual benefit for our students, like this community engagement report.
Incredible. That's wonderful. And can you talk a little bit more? I know one of your favorite pieces is the Capstone Project. So what students can expect with that?
Sure. So it's fairly standard in academia to have a master's thesis project, essentially a pretty narrow and extensive research project. And in the 2.5 years and nearly 55 sit-down interviews that we did with law enforcement stakeholders in our region to help create this program, essentially we were told that that had little, if any, value for modern law enforcement, something that would quickly become dated. So working together, we just decided to do something pretty cutting edge, which is an online portfolio project as the culmination of their experience in our program. And like it says on the screen, Christy, it absolutely is a resume on steroids. It's all password protected and non-discoverable, but students in their final course build an interactive portfolio that shows off their exemplary work from throughout the program. So when they're done, they have a professional headshot, their resume, and then they've organized their work for our program. And the theory is, instead of some abstract research project, they have something tangible that they can provide an employer, a potential employer in the promotional process access to, that shows they not only have a top-notch degree from the University of San Diego specific to law enforcement, here's a tangible sample of what they did. And we just thought that that'd be a big value add, and that's the feedback we're getting from students as well.
Absolutely. Tony, did you have any specific projects that come in mind looking back as a favorite or a standout? Any thing you worked on that was kind of the biggest takeaway for you?
Well, here's the irony. My favorite project actually turned out to be the one I was concerned about the most, which was the Capstone Project. So throughout the program, I maintained hard copies and saved files of all my work throughout the program, which is recommended. And so for the capstone, there are 4 areas or program learning outcomes, PLOs, that essentially you apply your coursework toward. So I enjoyed reviewing all my coursework, and essentially I reviewed it, and then I developed my capstone on live binders, which will resoundingly strengthen my resume for when I apply for chief positions, as Erik alluded to. Also, what I enjoyed most about the program was my interaction with my classmates. A lot of real life leadership examples, which obviously can aid in future leadership endeavors. 2 stellar leaders who stick out during that time was Captain Cindy Pontes with the CHP, and Chief Dennis Naylor, who's a chief with Ithaca Police Department. And that dialogue on the discussion boards complemented the coursework and aided in developing best ideas, approaches to some of the pressing issues in law enforcement, for example, use of force, community outreach, implementing the 21st century policies that Erik alluded to. And the list goes on and on. If anyone's interested in looking at my LiveBinder site, it can be found on www.livebinders, which is Lincoln, Ida, Victor, Edward, Boy, Ida, Nora, David, Edward, Robert, Sam.com/play/play, question mark, ID, and then the symbol equals 262-6455. I'm very proud of it, by the way.
As you should be. Thank you. Okay.
I'm going to jump in real quick here, Christy, if you don't
Absolutely.
mind. We really are proud of our curriculum and the due diligence that we put into keeping it contemporary and useful. But Tony brings up probably the most valuable part about our program, which is the caliber of students that we're able to attract. And so you're tapping into a national and now international, we have a couple students from Canada, network of similarly situated law enforcement professionals. So you can share best practices across geography, across rank, and across job description. And that's probably the part of the program that we're most proud of is our students.
Thank you. Okay, and Dr. Fritsvold, can you speak to some of our partnerships a bit and kind of how these play such a big role in our program?
Absolutely. So the associations and organizations that you see on our screen were really instrumental in helping us launch our program and helping us continually refine our program. So we're honored not only to have these partnerships, but it also reflects that they've vetted our program carefully, and it's something that they're enthusiastic to encourage their members to consider. So, but it's not only about the consideration. We rely on these groups to help us, again, keep our curriculum on the cutting edge. What I quickly learned as an academic, where apparently information from 15 years ago is fine, in the law enforcement world, if you're 18 months out of date, you're pretty irrelevant. So we are continually upgrading our curriculum, and it's groups like those that you see on the screen who have been very kind to donate us their insight and expertise to help us do just that. So we're honored to be in partnership with these groups.
Indeed, we are. And moving into another kind of realm of our partnerships is our transfer credit partnerships, which has been a really great asset to us, and I know to a lot of our students. So again, I'll pass it back to you, Dr. Fritsvold, for a little bit of an overview on those.
Sure. So the program is 31 units total, 31 units. And so if you're a graduate of any of these prestigious trainings, you get a pretty healthy head start in terms of both coursework, time, and money in our program. And quite frankly, I see this as one of those very, very rare win-win situations where graduates of this training not only get a head start on our program, but then they get to share the results and skills that they develop through their training program with our students. So it really seems to be a win-win. And you can go to our website to see how all those transfer credit protocols and how all the details shake out.
Can I interject? I'm jealous of this because I had 24 hours at other institutions, including George Washington, that wouldn't transfer over. So I would highly recommend, if you have any of these hours, to obviously join LEPSL, because it's a great savings, great program.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Okay, so I'm going to dive into some of the details of our program structure here. So this program is designed to be completed in 20 months. So you take one course at a time until your final term when you are working on that capstone project that we have been talking about. Each course runs 7 weeks. So you take 2 courses each semester back to back. Overall, you can log in and do your coursework at any time. It really is designed to be flexible and to work with the unpredictable schedules that we know come in general in adult life, and especially with our law enforcement and public safety communities. So You can see some more information here about our schedule and the details, the costs associated. We do have the law enforcement discount. So that is a great thing to make sure to check if you qualify for and take advantage of. Most students do. Dr. Fritsvold, can you talk a little bit about when modules are released every week and due dates and kind of that aspect of the structure that we have?
Sure. So we're fortunate to have a leading technology team that has helped us build this course, working from really the research on what works best for adult learners and working professionals. So everything's based essentially on a week, or we call it a module schedule, where you're engaging the material, you're engaging your colleagues on the discussion boards that Tony mentioned, and you're posting throughout the week with some bigger posts due on Friday. And then any writing assignments or installments on a project are due Monday nights. And the great thing is that, as you mentioned, it really does adapt to your schedule. So essentially you have something to do every 2 or 3 days, but how you get there is entirely up to you. So we have corrections professionals working the graveyard shift versus maybe a more administrative centric schedule that works a more traditional Monday through Friday schedule. And it's always interesting on the academic side to see when people are submitting their assignments. But the long story short is about every 3 days, but how you engage and do your work to get there is really dictated by your schedule. And I'd love to add one other point there is that on the flexibility front, we pride ourselves in supporting our students where they are as law enforcement professionals. So we realize this year in particular has been particularly demanding and particularly unpredictable. So all our faculty, which we'll talk about in a minute, are trained to be flexible. So it just takes a quick text message or email from a student, and we can be flexible with individual requirements when your work and personal demands get pretty significant. But even more so, there have been large-scale events impacting the law enforcement community nationally that we've proactively scaled back our course requirements. So during the wildfires last year and this year across the Western United States, we realized so many of our students and faculty were impacted. We scaled back our course requirements for a couple weeks to do our best to support them. During the month of protests and civil unrest that impacted many cities, we proactively scaled back our course requirements across the board. So we want to make sure that prospective students out there know that we're doing our best to understand the unique demands of their profession and build a program that serves them well, even in a relatively unpredictable environment.
Thank you. Tony, can you speak a little bit to your experience, especially, that first course, the ease of use, getting back into it? I know some of our students, if they haven't been in school in a while, face a little bit of first day of school jitters, getting back into it and using all of the systems.
Sure. First, I totally agree with everything Erik said. I do believe LEPSL is designed for the working professional. As I have indicated, I retired almost right at when I began the program, but I was still working on a cold case task force here in Arizona and had no issues whatsoever with completing my assignments on time. And as I tend to procrastinate, that should tell the viewers here a lot. You develop a certain routine, which is replicated throughout the program. And as Erik indicated, there's flexibility to post your responses to discussion boards, questions throughout the week, which is really helpful. So sometimes I found myself not being able to sleep at 2 o'clock in the morning, and I would get up and write a reply or a discussion board. And as I recall, and Erik will correct me if I'm wrong, I believe you have to do the initial post, and then you have to respond to 2 of your classmates' posts. And in all candor, sometimes I found myself responding to 20 different replies because I became so enthralled in the subject matter, and the replies were so thought-provoking that it really stoked my fire. And again, my wife would be, "Why are you answering so many replies? You've already done 15 and you only have to do 2. So I'm usually not an overachiever, but in this particular instance, I tried to learn as much as I could, and it was extremely rewarding.
Thank you. Okay, faculty, Dr. Fritsvold, tell us about the secret sauce here.
Sure, and if we're most proud of our students, we're equally 1A there would be our faculty team. And quite frankly, I'd put both our students and faculty, if you're looking for a law enforcement serving program, I'd put us against any program in the country at any level. We have roughly 50 faculty exclusive to this program. So we're fortunate to have so much autonomy that a lot of programs out there take their traditional academic faculty and try to force them into a practitioner serving role. We were able to identify experts specific to this program. So all of our faculty, at least the biggest category, are high-ranking, accomplished law enforcement professionals with the academic credentials to teach at the university level. So they don't simply understand these concepts in the abstract or in a textbook-driven way. They have lived experience that really bring the concepts to life and that we also think our students will respect. We have a dozen chiefs of police on our faculty team. We have Marine lieutenant colonels and colonels with multiple deployments under their belt, and attorneys with particular expertise, whether it be media relations or communication or social media, that I think it's this unique academic practitioner formula that, as you said, it really is the secret sauce of the program. So we're not talking about these concepts in the abstract like a nerdy academic like myself might do. We have practitioners in the field with boots on the ground who can talk about them and bring them to life in a more vivid way.
Fantastic, thank you. So we have a few more a few more minutes for questions. That wraps up some of the main details that we wanted to share with you all. So please feel free, if you have a question, to go ahead and drop it into the chat. I don't see any at the moment. Cindy, let me know if I'm missing any, but a couple of FAQ that we generally get. So Dr. Fritsvold, this one would be for you. You know, sometimes we have a student who might not meet all the admissions requirements and is a little apprehensive about submitting that application. So what might you say to a student in that situation?
Sure, I'd strongly encourage them to engage our frontline admissions staff. And the reason is that much like we have autonomy to bring on faculty specific to this program, on the admissions front, and I'm the top of the pyramid on admissions, we have the flexibility to consider the totality of the circumstances. So we can look at a student's academic and professional accomplishments in an admissions package. And I'll give you a few examples. Early on in our program, we happened to have two students who had undergraduate grade point averages that they had wished were a little higher. And both students happened to have dropped out of college in the wake of September 11th to join the service. And then they had to piece together their academic career during the time they were serving, during and after the time they were serving our country. So unlike a traditional program, you know, I think that's just the kind of grit and sacrifice that would bring a great richness to the program. So even if you've been out of school for a while, even if your academic record is a bit mixed, we encourage you to reach out, again, because we can consider the totality of the circumstances under which students apply.
Thank you. Great. And yeah, go ahead.
Can I chime in real quick on the faculty real quick?
Yes, please
okay.
do.
Number one, all the professors possessed impressive academic and professional backgrounds. And you have some true academics like Erik that can speak to the efficacy of programs and the paucity of data and things of that nature, which I found extremely interesting. But as Erik conveyed, many come from high-level law enforcement career fields. For example, District Attorney Samantha Begovich and Chief Gary Morrison were among my favorites. But I do have to admit, Erik was my favorite professor of all. And as Erik indicated, he refers to them as the secret sauce, and I couldn't agree more because their backgrounds and experience, quite frankly, added greatly to the learning experience. I like not only the academic aspect, but the practical aspects that the professors bring. And their constructive, nonpartisan, non-political input they displayed on the discussion boards and on my individual papers was extremely helpful to me. So.
Great, thank you so much. And I'll do one more. I know that comes up a lot. Can you speak a little bit to the amount of time that a student could expect to spend on their schoolwork every week?
Absolutely. And our accreditation window, as well as kind of our own rigor goals, students are looking at 15 to 18 hours per week all in. So that's doing the reading, working through the videos and presentations, as well as interacting with colleagues on the discussion board, as well as crafting any assignments that might be due at the end of that module. So 15 to 18 hours all in, but again, flexible. And we have, as Tony suggests, a host of not only very busy law enforcement professionals who are thriving in our program, but also many have extensive personal and family commitments as well. My favorite story here, Christy, is in our inaugural class, one of our best students was a homicide detective, subject to call outs, very, very busy, and managed to coach both his son's youth baseball teams throughout his time in Lepsel. And I'm sure he sacrificed sleep here and there, but a demanding, unpredictable job, stayed committed to the family, and again, was one of our top students.
Love that. Thank you so much for sharing. Cindy, are there anything else in the chat that I might have missed? I know we're about at time.
No, there's not, Christy, but something came up for me as well.
Sure.
One, I really appreciate that you talked about the structure, the program structure, because that was a curiosity for me. What is the length of time we can hope to accomplish this? And understanding the demographic, you know, the mid-career, the fast track, that was really helpful as well. But I do kind of have a question for Tony. You mentioned stoked your fire, and I'd like you to drill down a little bit on that. You know, what is the result of coming out of this program? What are some of the, you know, the emotional benefits and, you know, the things that maybe you saw later on in your career? So I'm just kind of curious about what you mean by stoked my fire. How does that resonate?
Well, again, having seen my peer group having graduate degrees, it didn't really inhibit me from promoting, because eventually I did promote, but I really think I would have promoted faster had I had a graduate degree earlier in my career. But again, having gone to several different institutions of higher learning and also including the Leeds National Academy, FBI, those particular universities, quite frankly, it was strictly academic in nature. And this program, through obviously interfacing with 16 to 18 students, and many of them, as Erik alluded to and Christy alluded to, are mid-level, and some are already senior level leaders within their organization, being able to hear their perspective on different topics. For instance, implicit bias, for instance, or use of force right now, which is obviously taken the nation by storm. So those type of issues that right now that are at the forefront of law enforcement, being able to actually hear the academic side, again, some of the statistical nature of crime, but able to talk to a peer group that's having to deal with those type of situations right now was extremely rewarding to me. And quite frankly, I could not find it at a different institution or program.
Great. Well, you actually answered my second question, which was the differentiator as well. So that was very helpful. Thank you for that.
Thank you.
Wonderful. Well, I think that's about all we have on our end, but Cindy, just wanted to say thank you so much again for hosting us and allowing us the platform to share a little bit about Lepsel today. So we really appreciate everyone for joining us for this session, and of course always can reach out to us, online degrees at sandiego.edu, our social media page, our Facebook page. Please feel free to reach out and we can follow up with you.
Well, we thank you for being here as well. Dr. Fritsvold, Tony, Christy, thank you all for such a great demonstration of what's available at the University of San Diego. This session has been recorded, so I think we'll find it very valuable on our YouTube page for those who missed it this morning. We'll also put it out on our app, which you can connect with the University of San Diego through the CPOA events app. And we hope you do. We hope you reach out and find out more about the opportunities that they offer. We do have a winner of the prize drawing, and if I could get the screen back from you, Christy.
Sure.
Excuse me. Great, and I will, so I'm just remembering how to do all this. There it is. And share. And can you see our prize winner up there?
You can.
Awesome. Congratulations to Nicole Frazier from the city of Palo Alto. She wins a great prize from, the University of San Diego. Thank you for attending the session. And again, thank you all. Please keep the link open on the rest of the day so you can enjoy our upcoming presentations. Next up at 10 o'clock is Panasonic, and they are discussing the benefits of selecting the right devices for your remote workforce. So again, thank you to the team at the University of San Diego, and make it a great day out there. Take care.
Thank you.
Thank you, Cindy.
Thank you.